we will be going through a very interactive session with seasoned experts in this area. One thing that you would be sure of is that by the end of this webinar, you will be informed, you will be educated, and you will go back home with, a simple definition of what your mental health means to you. Now, to help us govern this period, we would have a few ground rules. So because this is a dialogue session, we would have a chance, everyone will get a chance to speak. However, our chance to speak would be moderated. First and foremost, we would require that anyone that intends to speak would raise their hand using the raise hand feature. You find that where I think it's interactions or something. Raise your hand digitally and you'll be called upon to speak. You'll be unmuted so you can speak. Then if you would like to comment, if you comment in one session, please give others a chance so they can also, either ask their questions or also make their comments as well. Everyone commenting or asking a question, we're asking that you kindly keep it at 1 minute. 1 minute for every question or comment. To spice this interaction, this webinar up, there are riddles that would be shared in the chat box. On the screen, but you respond in the chat box. So you read the question, but you respond in the chat box. It's May Day, and so I Choose Life Foundation has come bearing gifts for workers today. So the person with the highest number of correct answers would be going home with gifts this evening. Now, please, let's make the chat room very interactive. Let's speak, let's comment, but in the course of expressing our own freedom of expressions, let us be mindful of others. Let's be tolerant of diverse views and perspectives. Let's respect one another. Let's show ourselves respect. Now, at this point, we would just go on to the business of the day. My name is Ime Enang, and co-moderating today is Olive Sadiq. Olive, we want to say hi.
Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Mental Health in the Workspace. Thank you, Madam Ime.
You're welcome. So without any further ado, join us in welcoming our host and the convener to speak on the theme, I Tire, Not Be Lazy. The coordinator of I Choose Life Foundation and partner Right Angle PR, Chijioke Obioma. Please, let's give him a warm welcome as he, takes the stand.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Ime. Thank you, Olive, for a wonderful job. I look forward to a very engaging dialogue over this course of a few minutes, but also a place where we can all learn and grow. So if you have worked and lived in Nigeria, you will understand my experience. So in the last 6 weeks, maybe 7, we had no light. And prior to that, it was your usual, just the usual no light here, no light there. You understand what I'm saying? But to make this period worse, we had no communication as to what happened from the company in charge of supplying lights for our estate. So that became the first stress. I had to do investigation by myself, and I'm sure every other person there also had to do their own investigation, and I found out that it was the generator. So we go to the office of this company to, what are we going to do? What's the solution to this? And it turns out that, for a want of a good word, this manager was probably ghosting us. She would not be in the office. And when we call her, she would not pick her calls and all of that. And this was actually very, very stressful. The people in the street asked us to contribute money, and hopefully we were able to get the transformer faster. It didn't happen that way. We contributed the money and we kept waiting and waiting, and the transformer and the lights never came. Second stress was I had to be going to the filling station almost every day to go and buy for in my jerry can for the generator. No matter how I was dressed, whether properly or not properly, somebody in the filling station always felt that I was going to do black market or sell the fuel, black market. For those of you, I'm sure most of you understand what I'm saying. So it was very stressful even getting fuel. Not that you don't have the money to even purchase it. It was very stressful. Even in offices that they had their transformers working, I experienced several blackouts in some offices, and if you press further, like I did one time, the accountant told me we spent close to 300,000 this month alone on diesel. Now, those offices have people who are working there, not in the best environment, but they are expected to produce very good results. See, this is a familiar story, and see, data supports it. Let me give you some data. In 2023, a report by Mental Health Leadership and Advocacy Program stated that the prevalence rate of workplace mental health illness mental illness in Nigeria is within the range of 30 to 50%. When going through and reading about this, because of course, this is what we do at I Choose Life, I found out that Business Day had conducted a research in 2023, and they saw 64 million Nigerians suffered from one form of mental illness or the other in 2023. And in 2020, I also saw that there was a report published by Well Knew Me, which stated that 64% of Nigerian workers at some point suffer burnout. Even though we are known as happy people, slowly we are beginning to believe that if someone in the workplace says, I don't tire, it means the person is lazy. But you see, Nigerians are some of the most hardworking people in the world. So that's the reason why we excel everywhere. You will see some speakers speak to us today from the US and from the UK. We excel everywhere, So there is definitely more to this story on why people say, I don't tire. And this is why we are here. We want to know how to identify these issues. We want to know how to help ourselves in the workplaces so that we could have people continuously choose life every day. We have people here who have been employers, people here who are employees, who will come and talk to us, not just theorize things, talk to us about practical experiences on techniques, on techniques and things that we need to, manage stress in work, how to balance work and family and all of that. I mean, this is a power-packed dialogue. And we also have you, the audience, that would also share with us some of your experiences. So I welcome you to this. I welcome you to this, and I look forward to our speakers, and I look forward to your contributions and all of that. We were able to reach the Ministry of Labor. So the Ministry of Labor will be here observing, and we hope at the end of this dialogue to put forth our resolutions and present to the Ministry of Labor and see how we can make our workplace safer for every one of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chijioke. So the first round of questions, riddles would be flashed at this point. Ayo, over to you.
If the technical team is not ready with the riddle, okay, I think, okay. Please don't check Google for these answers, for these questions.
We would like to introduce our next guest, our esteemed guest, a senior lawyer with extensive expertise in advocacy, corporate commercial practice, immigration, and social integration in Europe and Nigeria. His firm, GH Solicitors, consults for a prominent medical institution nationwide. Join us in welcoming Barrister Fola Adeyemo as he shares insights on resources and techniques for stress management at work. Let's dive into strategies for a healthier work-life balance. Thank you. We could use our uploads in the to welcome Barrister Fola. Welcome Barrister Fola to the section.
Thank you, everyone. I'm so glad to be here to be part of this conference organized by I Choose Life Foundation to deliberate on a very crucial and important aspect of our well-being as humans. I go straight into the business of the day, which is my presentation. And I want to just give a quick overview of how I'm going to run through. I'm going to be giving a short briefing about my topic. And after that, I'm going to go to some talking points. The talking points are actually with 5 sub-heads. I'll quickly run through them. The first one is self-awareness and recognition of mental health challenges. The second one is the importance of effective time management. And the third is effective ways to manage workloads. The fourth is developing coping strategies for difficult situations. And the fifth is practical stress reduction techniques. So I'll quickly start out. Managing stress, anxiety, and other mental health challenges at work has actually proven to be very stressful. So stress management techniques and resources are increasingly vital in today's fast-paced society. As recent statistics has shown a significant rise in stress levels globally, and this does not leave out Nigeria. Nigeria, as a case point, for instance, the National Bureau of Statistics reports that a significant proportion of the population experiences stress due to various factors such as economic instability, unemployment, insecurity, and insecurity. Similarly, across Africa, the African Development Bank highlights stress as a major concern affecting individuals, communities, and economies, with implications for health, productivity, and overall well-being. Factors such as work pressure, financial concerns, societal expectations contribute to this phenomenon. affecting individuals from all walks of life. In the workplace, according to recent surveys, stress-related absenteeism and presenteeism, working while sick or distressed. It only emphasizes that, I mean, employees could be at work, but it could have been better if they had stayed back at home because they are at work. But it's like is an absent employee because productivity it's actually very low. The employer is not going to get anything valuable out of the time which that employer is at work. That's the presenteeism terminology. So cost to companies is in billions of dollars annually due to decreased productivity, increased errors, and employee burnout. Chronic stress not only increases the risk of developing physical and mental health issues, but also impacts productivity, relationships, and overall quality of life. Therefore, managing stress, anxiety, and other mental health challenges at work is essential in today's fast-paced, competitive environment. So what should we do? We should prioritize mental health. Workers are helped to ensure that workers are healthier, more productive, and can thrive personally and professionally. Having said that, I'll be going to the talking points. And the first in line is self-awareness and recognition of mental health challenges. The most important is for one to be self-aware. But a lot of time, we have employees in workplaces, even students. I mean, human beings generally, they're not self-aware. And self-awareness is key. Self-awareness that will result into recognition, self-recognition of, I mean, I think I'm going through some stress. I'll quickly, and how to identify signs and symptoms of stress, anxiety, and other mental health issues are important. And I have a list to quickly run through. If anyone is going through stress in the workplace, it will be irritable, it will be hungry, impatient, or wound up. It will also be overburdened or overwhelmed. It will be anxious, nervous, or afraid. It is like your thoughts are racing and you cannot switch off. When employees want or students want to beat deadlines, one could be unable to enjoy oneself. Then there will be depression, and on the whole, it could culminate into not being interested about life. So I go to the second talking point, which is the importance of effective time management. Strategies for setting reality goals and expectations, because that's all about time management. You have to be able to set realistic goals and expectations. And I have identified 6 tips for setting realistic goals. One should be able, as a matter of habit, write down your goals. The simple act of writing down a goal is the first step towards achieving it. Because if it's in the brain, if it's in you, in your thoughts, if you have not actually written it down, you won't be channeled, your mind and your mental faculty and the way to achieve the end point will not strike you very quickly. But when it's been written down, then other ideas it's like it worked as a total multiplex. by the time you put it down, you are likely to see the end results. Then take inventory of resources and threats. It's only when you have written it down that you begin to see what are the inventories that could be involved and what are threats that could go around achieving that goal. You have to reassess and adjust as necessary. Then determine your milestones, share your goals. I mean, even if you are the head of a unit, you could share your milestones with subordinates because you all work as a team. So it's all about considering the smart approach, because a lot of people who don't go through these effective time management techniques, they want to have a go at things alone, and it burns them out. So in order to achieve effective time management, one has to work as a team. Then another thing is you have to prioritize your task and managing workload to minimize overwhelm. Effective ways to manage workload, time blocking, allocate specific time for different types of work. I'll go to the fourth point, which is developing coping strategies for difficult situations. So then the fifth one is self-care practice for overall well-being. My time is up, but at the discussion level, questions might be raised. Then I will be able to flesh things up from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Barrister Adeyemo. If Ayo is here, he would project once again, and then we take the questions afterwards. Questions and comments. So please use this time to articulate your questions. Remember, we've said that they have to be a minute, just 1 minute. Ayo. Remember that we're going to be dropping our responses in the chat room. Please drop your questions in the your questions in the chat room. You know, this stress can show in different ways.
Oh, we have a question to Barrister Fola. Someone just sent us a message. They said, how do we manage works? How do we manage an annoying colleague at work? How do we ensure that it doesn't stress us or affect our productivity at work?
Yeah, that's a very good question. One cannot but have annoying colleagues at work, but one should, if the level of annoyance is not at the level where if they've broken rules and regulations at work, and then one can avoid such a co-worker. But when there are things, when the level of annoyance are specifically things that has actually breached the code of conduct set out in the employer's manual, then it should be escalated to the HR to deal with that, because in every organization there are set rules. Whatever, some things might be acceptable in some organizations and not be acceptable in some other organizations. For instance, today, I saw a news item in the UK that a court of law actually gave a judgment that a female employee who made a pass at a male employee who made a pass at a female employee, saying that she's pretty. It's been ruled that it's out of line. So it will be an answer for all. It will be on case-by-case basis. So if it is saying, I mean, what that court in the UK has ruled, I don't think it doesn't apply to Nigeria. We still make passes across gender in Nigeria, and so that if it's reported to HR, it might go to no issue. But when it's actually crossed the line of normalcy, that stated rules against stated rules and regulation, then HR should be brought
in. Thank you so much, sir, for this insightful topic, and from your wealth of knowledge. I believe that we've really learned a lot. Personally, we've learned that chronic stress affects our productivity. You know, we should, as much as possible, check ourselves. And one more other thing I learned is that we should always write our goals. We should declutter our mind. And when we write our goals, we would be able to be more productive about it, and we would have room to gain more ideas to flesh it up. So thank you very much for this. We are really grateful. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, sir. I'll call on the moderator to introduce the next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for that. It was quite insightful. I see that there are more questions that are popping up in response to, you know, the issues that you had raised. But at this point, we would call up the next speaker. Our next speaker is being introduced as a powerhouse in the field of guidance and counseling psychology. He's a certified marriage mentor, an esteemed coach with accolades including consecutive wins as the most supportive parent, recognition as a mother of excellence and virtuous woman. Beyond her professional prowess, she embodies roles as sister, sister-in-law, aunt, friend, and cherished wife to a God-sent partner. Additionally, she serves as a godmother and nurtures 3 remarkable children, symbolizing signs and wonders. Join us as we welcome Mrs. Joydaniels, A.M. Osere, to enlighten us on the art of balancing work and family, multitasking. Mrs. Joydaniels, please.
Hello.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, sirs and mas. I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank the organizers for this mental health in the workplace on a special day like this, where we are supposed to be at home resting too, but we are also learning to take care of our mental health. Thank you very much. Yeah, the topic here is balancing work and family. When we talk about balancing work and family, I mean, what comes to mind is multitasking. It's not just doing one particular thing. It's doing a lot of things in a particular time. Hello?
Hello, yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
We can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. I thought network. So we want to, I want to go into this topic in a very concise, down-to-earth way. because of the time. And again, I want all of us to be able to take one or two things back home, you know, so that we can be able to manage our mental health in a better way. So when we talk about balancing work and family, I mean, if you take away work, if you take away family, if you take away love, if you take away maybe play, I don't know what's left of a human being. So balance work and family, you know, it has to do with these few things I have just mentioned. We have to prioritize. So, is it Sashola also talked about prioritizing our time, which is very important. We prioritize time at work so that we will have time at home. We prioritize time at home so that we can have time to work. But it seems like the work is more important because we need the money to be able to run the home. I was going through a research and I came across a psychologist. His name is John Leo, and he was talking about the power of full engagement. That caught my attention. And I got to understand that what he meant by the power of full engagement is not necessarily how you use your time. It's how you distribute your energy, which is more important within the time you have. But most of the time is the opposite. Oh, we don't have time. So you rush over different work at the same time. And we may end up not doing all of them perfectly. So I appreciated what he said when he said that it is not the time that is the key. What is the key is the energy you've got. Now, the question is, what are your levels of energy when it comes to balancing work and family? What is your level of energy when it comes to balancing work and family? A lot of us don't put that into consideration. We wake up in the morning, what's in your mind is how to get to the office. You rush into the car, bust up, you rush into the office, and you get into the office and you are breathless. You started the day on a very wrong footing. So what do? We must learn certain things when it comes to balancing work and family. For instance, what are the things that diminishes your energy? You need to identify it. You need to identify it. Is it coming back from work and starting to cook dinner? Or looking after your babies that you have not seen all day? What are the things you have put in place? Why not make time out during break? Like what I'm doing now. It doesn't have to cut into my family time. I'm taking my break to do this because one, it is a short time and it's something that I know I can give and it will give me so much joy. You can't imagine how happy I am being able to talk about balancing work and family at this time. Because right now, maybe I'm supposed to just sit in one place and just eating something, and that's it. But this gives me more pleasure to tell you that I'm already also taking care of my mental health at this time. That's why my camera is not on. I'm sorry about that, though. We must learn how to say no. Saying yes diminishes your energy because you put yourself under pressure to want to meet up to your promise. We must learn to say no sometimes as well is good for us. It makes us, don't feel so overwhelmed about every other thing that we needed to do. We must also put into consideration how we, our limitations. We should not forget that we as humans, we are limited. We are limited in, let me just say, in our energies, we are limited. You cannot keep going and going and going, and you have to stop at some point. That's the limitation I am talking about. Reduce certain activities that are not important. The activities that are important to me may be important to you. So it is for us to identify the activities that are important to us, and the ones that are not important. But for our health's sake, for our mental health's sake, we should identify the things that are not important in our lives. For instance, this may apply to a lot of us, browsing the internet aimlessly. What are you browsing in the internet, for crying out loud, for 2 hours? If it's not a research work, if it's not your studies, if it does not have to do with your work, what will you be browsing the internet for 3 hours for 2 hours for 4 hours for? These are mentally draining, if you ask me. Another thing, we want to be familiar with our schedule. I heard the last speaker talking about writing down your goals. Have a to-do list, have a calendar, have a diary. Know the time you allocate to these obligations, both at work and at home. There are times I want to sleep, I want to have a rest, and I need to tell the children, look, nobody should bother me. I put off my phone and lock my door. These are things that we should be able to identify and do for our own mental health sake, because of love for work and love for family. Another thing I want us to also talk about is we should not beat ourselves to accepting setbacks. For crying out loud, we are human beings. I'm not saying don't be ambitious. I'm not saying don't be a go-getter. But for crying out loud, there are times that we need to just accept certain setbacks. If we do, we rest our mind. We will rest our mind and we'll be better for it. Do we have hobbies? Do we have hobbies? Some of us have hobbies, some don't. Some may just, just think, okay, let me just read this book, not because they love to read, but just read it anyway. Just spend 5 minutes. Just spend 10 minutes, read something. For those of us that use computers, for those of us who are students, who are researchers, we need to have hobbies and take a break from all these things that we are doing. For instance, when I was studying some time ago, we were introduced to this Pomodoro style of studying. That is, you give yourself 5 minutes intervals at your studies, you just get up, walk around, take a deep breath, come back. Research have shown that it helps to keep you more focused in your studies. Even at work, we could do that. We could do that. Another thing I want to talk about is respecting work hours. Respecting work hours and setting boundaries cannot be overemphasized. We must respect boundaries and respect, our work hours. Why? We should not carry work home and should not take home back to work. Well, there's little or no time left, but I just want to say that either ways, work, family, work, we need to strike a balance at all times because it is good for our mental health. Our first speaker talked about burnout. Burnout, in fact, do not get to the stage where you burn out, because if you do, even this work we're talking about and family we're talking about, we may not live, to see it happen. I want to stop here, and if I have more opportunities or more time, I could continue so that I don't go into the next speaker's time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, madam. Thank you. Thank you for bringing, what we do without even considering at all and calling our attention to it. Burnout, in the past, I really used to think burnout was for people that, I would not think that a Nigerian can burn out in that sense. I also didn't see anything wrong with just finishing my work at home. So someone sent me a message to say you're on that table all the time. So I'm learning myself. Thank you very much, madam. Thank you for, just unpacking what we could be doing subconsciously without paying attention to the fact that we are hurting ourselves. Family time, not paying attention to those soft matters of life. So now we'll open this floor to our audience. If you have any questions or you have a comment, remember that we say you raise your hand, signify by showing a raised hand using the feature, and then you'd be unmuted to be able to ask your question or make a comment. Please keep it at 1 minute and you can have a go.
I guess there are questions in the chats section.
Okay. Okay, so I see one question from Belumi. My question, Ma, is what if you work from home? That is remotely. How do you achieve that balance? Interesting. Thank you for asking that question.
Hello, yes, working from home, you must also strike a balance. For instance, what time do you work from home? Is it a time that the children are away at school or they are home? This is one of the things I wanted to talk about, that we should be honest. If we need help with such things, we should be honest with our bosses. Even the bosses too, they should, look out for employees. Now, what is it if the time is going to clash into the time when the children are going to be at home? I mean, talk to your boss. Strike a balance. He's also human. As long as the work will be done, I think your boss will be fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam. I hope my HR manager is on this call. I invited her so that she can learn and know that I didn't say it, but Mrs. Joydaniels said it, so we need to comply. Is there anyone else that would like to ask a question or make a comment? I see someone says, do not bring work home and don't bring home to work. That's true balance, right? If we don't have a question or comment, I think at this point we'll just, I'll just call Ayo. It seems to be my favorite today. I keep calling Ayo. So Ayo, Please project. Remember, the rules for the game is that you see the question projected and you answer within the chat room. Remember, there's a prize for the one with the highest correct answers.
I observed that we have a lot of attempts on this one, but I'm still a bit worried, Madam Ime, that the first two, we don't have anyone who has seemed to have gotten it right.
Interesting. And this is despite the fact that we thought people had access to resources that.
We pleaded with them not to use Google. So
okay, so we have a very
so
compliant audience. We're grateful.
So I don't know if Ayo can Diola can just quickly show the first two again.
Okay. In the meantime, there was a question that someone really wanted to ask and has actually sent to me on WhatsApp. That what if the HR is spineless? How do we resolve issues? What if the HR, that's the word used, but let's take it that the HR manager is not empowered to be able to intervene in the way that staff would want? I imagine either of the speakers can help with that.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Barrister, do you want to help us with that, sir?
Yes. We are looking at an ideal workplace where the HR department or unit of any organization cannot be powerless to attend to such a conflict. It is off to take in that line that an HR of an organization will not be able to resolve issues between employees. It stops with the HR. It will start with the line manager, supervisor, and HR is a zenith point in any organization that has very strict corporate governance rules to be able to resolve grievances between employees. That's my take on that.
So, sir, the person is saying, what if we have a scenario? What if we have a scenario where the HR is not doing this? What do we now do to manage stress, work-life balance, all of that?
This will be a very rare occasion, very rare thing to happen. And after HR, in a well set up organization, then there should be the ethics committee. Then it can be escalated to the ethics committee of that organization to look into it.
Thank you very much, Barrister. And I appreciate the context that you you walk in. But this is Nigeria, where sometimes a sitting governor does not even have power because the previous governor has more. So I think it's just in that light that, okay, so let's even assume that you then find yourself in less than ideal situation. What is possible?
I mean, you're putting me in a very tight corner. I will still be, I will be unwavered about my response, because this situation you're painting in a workplace, not in a political arena. You brought in a political arena into this. Let's just stick with a workplace environment. I mean, we're looking at an environment where an organization is registered with TAC, and it has its management level. I mean, all cadres of employees up onto the board stage. That's the environment. That we should restrict our discourse to this, because if we have to go out of that, then we will be lost with this conference in this. I mean, for this particular kind of scenario, we will be lost. We will be lost in the.
I agree with you, sir.
Okay, sir.
Yes,
I
sir.
don't know if sorry, I don't know if Madam I don't know if Dr. Joy has something to chip in for maybe 1 minute. If we have a scenario like this where the HR is not doing what it's supposed to do.
The time for
probably
that
she's
section is off.
okay.
It's off,
Okay, no
yes.
problem.
Yeah,
No
so
problem.
but
Then we can go on.
you know, we at I Choose Life Foundation, we run a helpline, and the helpline is a place that you could call to talk about anything and everything. Whatever is going on with you, we have the helpline number. You could just call, you could talk to a professional who will give you mental health first aid and any other help that we think will be beneficial to your mental health, just so that everybody is going to be good in society. Thank you very much, Barrister Fola and Dr. Joy, for that interesting topic. So the helpline number will be posted shortly. So if you know anybody that needs to speak to a helpline respondent, you could just quickly copy the number, save it as I Choose Life helpline, and you're open. We're open from Monday till Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., at least for now. So moving forward, we will be moving on to introducing another interesting speaker, but this time we have a younger person, and she is the founder and chief executive officer of Peridot School of Languages, a language hub for training leaders in any foreign language. She is also the founder of Tamar City, with a vision to be a city of refuge and healing. She is also a fellow of the Nigerian Prize for Leadership and an alumni of School of Governance and Politics. She's also a Mackenzie Forward alumni. She works as the Global Communication Executive for Mission Enablers and Children Empower Funds. With a virtual round of applause, let us make welcome Praise Okwuchi to speak on transitions to work, and she will be giving tips for young entrants into the labor force. You're welcome, Praise.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you. And thank you, I Choose Life Foundation, for the opportunity to speak. I have a slide. I don't know if it's possible to help me with that. So I'm going to be speaking on transitioning to employment. And as a young person, I mean, I can relate to a lot of these things, because when did I finish school? So it's usually not very easy when it comes to transitioning to employment. My first question to you, please help with this next slide. My first question to you is, what is your greatest source, or what is that thing that makes you stressed the most? And you find out that a lot of time it has to be work. And that's why we are having this particular dialogue today. A very big thank you again to I Choose Life Foundation. The next slide, please. So I'm going to be talking about the mindset shift. So concerning the mindset shift, sorry, can you help me with my slides? Thank you. Would I just go ahead from here? Okay, so for the mindset shift.
We apologize, we're having some technical hitches, but if you have it there, you could just go on. Thank you.
Okay, no problem, that's fine. So for the mindset shift, we're looking at a student who is moving into the employment life, and it's usually not very easy. A lot of things that you know you're going to just attend classes, but this time around, we're talking about work, we're talking about getting ready mentally. So that's where I tell people that transitioning happens at every stage of our lives as individuals. So you're transiting from being a maybe primary 6 child to junior secondary school where you have to write exams, to senior secondary school. And we just concluded, the JAMB result just came out, people who are preparing to get into the university. So transitioning is actually normal. And another thing I would like us to know that it is important to be kind to yourself. One of our speakers made mention of that, and know that you are not expected to know everything. So for those who just left school, or those who are just trying to transit into the next stage of their lives, there's this anxiety that comes, or there's this fear that comes with, oh, am I going to get a very good job? Or am I going to do well? Or they start imagining things that probably do not even exist. And sometimes it's as a result of what they have heard from either senior colleagues, sometimes parents, and even what they have seen online, right? So some of these things actually make up our thought pattern for those who are transiting from being students into working. So I'm going to be going to the next slide. So common stressors, what are the things that stress us out? So there's what we call the transition shock. So the transition shock happens as a result of just coming into that space. You're trying to balance yourself from what you knew to what you are getting into. And it's a feeling of anxiety, insufficiency, which is, like I always tell people, which is absolutely normal. You would have to learn on the job. And like most organizations also ask people during the course of interview. And so you probably want to take up a new role and you do not know everything in that role. There are cases where you would have to learn on the job. And this transition shock comes in and makes people feel like, oh, they are not capable. It is absolutely normal. And then we have the imposter syndrome. So the imposter syndrome, just like the transition shock, is a feeling of self-doubt of your intellect. Now, coming out to the first class as an undergraduate is not a guarantee that you're going to do well in the workspace. I have a friend, he graduated with a first class accounting from the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, and just for him to start applying for jobs, he sent in his CVs, to a lot. Eventually, a bank picked him. Now, he came out to the first class, and this is the reality of things right now. And I'm sure a lot of people on this call can relate. And when you ask people, oh, what did you want to become when you were much younger? Someone will tell you a doctor, and you ask them right now, what are you doing? I'm a writer. That's on the side. I mean, writing is okay. I write as well. So we have this sense of feedback. When we are undergraduate or when we're in school, we have things like tests, we write projects, we do group works, all of those things, and you see your results at the end of the day. What some people even call CGPA. Yes, some schools do that. So you come out to the first class, second class, upper, whatever it is. But in the organizational space or in the working place or workplace now, these things are not usually there. These systems are not there for every organization. And for the organizations that have that, the performance appraisal at the end of the day, it's either once in a quarter or at the end of the year. So you're not even sure of what you are at, how far you have gone in that organization or how well you are doing. So a lot of these things actually can cause stress to people who are just coming into that, into the working space for the first time. The next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, Now we have proactive coping techniques, some of which Barrister had mentioned and other speaker also mentioned. So some of these coping techniques would help, or I believe would help a lot, especially for those of us who are still coming into that work environment. For some people, it's a totally new space. For some people, they're probably even transitioning from a course of study in the university to a totally different career, like I mentioned earlier. So you see people who studied engineering in school and currently they are doing tech. Why? Because tech is the in thing, and according to what people say, well, tech is the in thing and tech is the new oil. So some of these things would require a lot of mental stress, or a lot of mental work. So you have to put in the work to ensure that you are successful in that particular area. Number one, you have to learn to relax. And that is why we're having this, to help us. A lot of people are not have not learned to just take out time to relax. And relaxation helps in concentration. It also helps in proper decision making. Also scheduling. I think it was Barrister that mentioned the fact that we need to plan our activities for the month. So I use Calendary to also plan. You could also do that. It would help, especially when you're just starting and maybe you're a PA or a virtual assistant. You would need that a lot of times. I remember one of the jobs I took up, I was really multitasking and I was working with an older person who well, for the Gen Zs versus the older generation now, you would know that you have to meet up to a lot of expectations. It is not what you want to do at your own time. No. Yes, you're going to have your time frame to work and all of those things, but scheduling helps a lot, and it has really actually helped me. So getting involved, I saw someone mention, ask a question about a question, I can't remember, but this would help. So getting involved includes volunteering. So if you're a remote worker, I work remotely as well. Volunteering would help you come out of that remote space. Remote working can be very demanding, and it can be a lot. You can receive messages as late as 9 p.m. in the night. Not like it is intentional, but sometimes you have to just do the work and deliver before 9 a.m. the next day. Sometimes it is proposals. Oh, we have this thing to submit, or want to apply for a grant and the closure is so and so day. You are coming into a new space. And these things are absolutely normal. So getting involved in either community development or whatever it is that you love doing would help you interact more with your environment. In public management, we have what is called ecology. And in ecology, it's just human beings relating with their environment. Now, overcoming the comparison trap, we are guilty of this. I mean, it happens a lot, especially for the younger generation. So you scroll up your phone or you go on your Instagram and you see, oh, this person just got a new car. This person just did this. And you are just at the entry level of your career, less than 5 years. You're comparing yourself with, imagine me comparing myself with Madam Ime now. How is that supposed to be realistic? Or comparing myself with someone who is probably doing Yahoo or Yahoo Plus, and I'm trying to live a decent life. So some of these things also affect our mental space. For some people on this call, you need to unfollow some people that you are following. I need to follow organizations like I Choose Life Foundation, so you get better content that will help your mental life. Okay, so we also have stay connected. You have to learn to enjoy the company of your colleagues. A lot of people are isolated. And sometimes this comes as a result of their temperament, which is understandable, right? But to help you do better at work or to help you navigate your space or your work life better, you need to learn to stay connected, ask questions when due. And finally, practice gratitude. It is very important. One of the things I do is try to journal everything that I have learned, either at the end of the month, ask myself basic questions. Or what am I grateful for? How well did I do in this particular area? What am I supposed to do better? And all of those things. So practicing gratitude is very important, both to God and also to your employee. Okay, finally, we may not have control over mental health triggers, but we can control how we respond to them. At the end of the day, our outputs and results are shaped by our responses. Thank you very much. So such an interesting moment with you.
Thank you very much, Professor. At this point, I would like to call you Professor Praise. Thank you so much. You have done justice to this topic and you have said a whole lot. But before we continue, some people are asking for your slide. I don't know if you would permit us to share it with them after now.
Oh, yes, please. Why not?
Okay, thank you very much. So the floor is open for questions, answers, stories. You want to share an experience, you want to add to what she just said, or you have questions to ask. So the floor is open now. So you can put up your hands or type in the comment section, and we will be sure to call you up. We are waiting for you. Okay, a hand is up. Chioma, please unmute yourself and you have the floor.
Yeah, hello, good evening or good day. Yes, I really gained a lot already. Thank you so much for organizing this. And yeah, as a young person, when I wanted to contribute a bit. Everything she said is on point. Like, even it's challenging to sit down and assess yourself, because when you are always busy, so many things will elude you. But if you start with yourself, just start with that one step of, like she mentioned, the Calendly, or all this. Put a time. I will say alarm has really helped me with kids, work, and everything, and school. Oh my God, it's overwhelming. And I must say, please, if you ever get married as a woman, make sure you finish your education. I know education doesn't end, but the major ones, I will advise everybody to finish before giving birth, if possible, because there are so many cases that are different. This is my major stressor. But before, I didn't have enough advice on it. So, secondly, I wanted to finalize by, please, as a young person, take time and breathe. Don't be influenced by your peers. Don't say, oh, this person did this person. Each person's journey is
Olamide has been sending the helpline numbers.
Sorry for that interruption. We are listening to you, ma. Go on.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so finally, I was trying to say that each person's journey is different. Yeah, most community in Nigeria, they are more of Christians and Muslims, and most of them are, spiritually oriented. Make sure you balance it as well. Spirituality doesn't mean you depend on somebody. Look inwards and find your own God. Find his voice, because it will really cost you less stress when you know that you're supposed not to go this route when everybody is going through that route. That when you know for yourself, this is not for me. It will save you a whole lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. So we
Thank
move
you.
quickly to
Thank you,
Gladys.
Mrs. Chioma. Yes, we have Gladys and we have two other persons. So I think after, please count. We just have these three people and then we're done. We move on to the next speaker. So Gladys, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, everyone, on this call, and really appreciate the last speaker. She has done so well for her generation. I wish a lot of young people are on this call. She really broke down quite a lot. I just want to add that when we take a look at all these strategies, which are very, very fundamental, we also need to look at the context of the country we live in and the peculiarities that abound. Yes, you plan, you have your calendar, you have these, you put things, systems and structures in place for yourself, but the next day you wake up to certain realities, yeah? So I would want to suggest that as we plan, we also plan for eventualities, have a space to Say, okay, you wake up tomorrow morning and maybe you are just like on red of gas in your car, and you're expected to just drive to the gas station and get fuel for your vehicle, only for you to see long queues and you're running late. What do you do? So the peculiarities of our time as a country, we need to put it in context when we plan, because if nothing else will alter your mental health, the peculiarities of which we face as a people, it does. So the earlier we begin to find mitigating strategies to hold self together, the better. And again, for our young people, the social media is either it makes or as they say. We need to prioritize, or say choose what we want to believe, or we want to accept, or what we want into our system. Even as much as they will tell you Google is your friend, there's so many things you research on Google and in the social space that are actually false and lie. Even in the age of AI too. So I think it will be safe to say that we could take the pain, dig inwards very well, compare and contrast content that we get, so that we'll be able to have a defined definition to certain concepts. So otherwise, we will just believe in hearsay. So that's why I like that statement. I don't know where it came from. I'm not very sure that do as I say and not as I do or so. So better still, when your priest, your pastor, or whatever say a lot of good, of course they will say a lot of good things on the pulpit. Then on the other side, you see that they live big or they live large, whereas you are not. So don't look at their living big or living large. Look at the context of, say, okay, do things rightly, do right by yourself and do right by your neighbor, which is actually one of the commandments of God. So I just think we need to contextualize what we do as regards our planning, our structuring, our day-to-day, so that one way or the other, you'll be able to balance this life circle and don't have too much of pressure put upon self. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That was really insightful. Choose the information that you want, and then not everything you see online is true. I agree with that. So we would call on Amaraja. I think that's the last person for this section. Please unmute yourself and drop your contribution or question. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I want to say I enjoyed the speaker. She raised some points that were bothering. Then I also want to add, I think being in the Gen Z generation, let me use the word, yes, Gen Z generation, it's quite difficult for many of us to control our emotions when dealing with work activities. And I think that's basically the problem. The fact that we want to live the life of our mates that we see that are living their life, already have their life planned out, probably by their parents, and you struggling, you're working your ass off, and then the next thing, we get to compare ourselves. We want to be like this person. So I think an advice also for the parents that are here that have children of the younger generation, you should try as much as possible to help them to not to compare themselves. I find it difficult to control my emotions at work most times, especially when I'm overwhelmed with activities, like really overwhelmed. Most times I just bottle it up in, and the day I will get to the brim of it, I'll make an outburst, and everybody will be so surprised. Why are you reacting this way? Why are you reacting this way? And it may be in tiny matters. So I've also learned to speak out whenever I feel hot. That's back to my boss. I go directly to her. I tell her, I understand what you were saying the other time, but this was my point. And I still state my point. And that actually helped clear my mental health. Then I think making a to-do list of what you also want to do for the day can help many of us. Both my mom make a to-do list of what she wants to achieve for the day. Then at the end of the day, going back to gratitude, you'll be able to balance up. I still have problems with emotions. I really want to know, are there better ways we can also try as much as possible to control our emotions so that we don't get overwhelmed with the activities? It's not easy trying to juggle different jobs. Like I actually work remotely too. I do voluntarily work. You mentioned voluntary work. I do that too. I work remotely. I have a full-time job. Now trying to juggle all this with plenty other responsibilities, and then your emotions are unstable. The Nigeria economy already is making your emotion, making us frustrated, making me frustrated. Let me personalize it. And then when I go to work, I see annoying things, and I just want to pour out. So I don't know. I really made this as a goal for the next 3 months to watch my emotions on how I could be able to control them so that it does not lead me to depression. Like going in and out of depression every day, every hour, it's tiring. So I don't know if there are tips that could be shared either on my mail or something, because I'm going to go on the road now. I may be very noisy. So if it's possible, it should be shared. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amaraja, for that. That brings me to this flyer on our screen. We run a helpline center called the I Choose Life Helpline Center. We run from morning to evening, Monday to Friday. If you're depressed, if you're lonely, if you need someone to talk to, if you're going through any difficult situation, we are here to mentally help you. Once you give us a call, a professional will be at the other end, and it's a safe space. And then if we need to escalate to our clinical psychologist, we will do by all means, and it's all free of charge. And also, still talking about work-life balance, which we are going to move in the next this next speaker is going to really talk about work-life balance and how we can manage our emotions better. I Choose Life also have a Hangouts community, a hub. We meet every month for young people. And it's a center for you to just meet new people, make friends, play games, just unwind, because most of us spend time in our office from Monday till Monday, because even if we go home, we're still working from home. So it's, just that few minutes, a few hours to unwind, have fun, you see movies, play games and all that stuff. So we have that community, and you have this number on your screen to call for that. Thank you very much. And at this point, I would like to call on our favorite screen share Diola or Ayola to share the riddles, the next riddle. And please keep and let your answer keep coming in. We have prizes for the person with the most answers. Thank you very much.
To manage time,
Keep
I
our
think
answers. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's keep our answers coming. And at this point, I'd like to call on our fifth speaker for this evening. You'll agree that we got you the very best speakers around the globe. Now, she's known to be an astute speaker and author with over 15 years in the field of human capital development, consultancy, training, and capacity building. She's happily married for 20 years to her best friend and business partner. She has also consulted both locally and internationally for organizations like WaterAid, USAID, NICOM, Institute of Human Virology, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Federal Ministry of Niger Delta, Federal Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Women Affairs, National Judicial Council, Supreme Court of Nigeria, Federal Judicial Service Commission, Bank of Industry, Court of Appeal, Premium Pensions Limited, to name a few. All those were just a few. So join us in welcoming Mrs. Chinenyenwa Beauty Bell to speak on work-life balance, setting boundaries to maximize productivity. Having heard the profile of our next speaker, I think she deserves a round of applause as she comes up.
Good evening, all. Good evening. Good evening, Madam Ime. This is my first time of meeting you, and I must say you are simply amazing with an amazing voice too and an amazing personality. Thank you for gathering every one of us here. Thank you for calling us all and we answered. Thank you, Barrister. Thank you, Madam that spoke earlier. Thank you, Okwuchi. I've been so enlightened listening to everybody. Thank you so very much. Without wasting time, I'm going to quickly go into my slide. When I saw the time for 10 minutes, I was like, wow, okay, let's run through it. So let's not waste time. Am I clear enough? Hello?
Yes, Ma, you're
Yes.
clear.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are talking today about balance. We are talking about work-life balance. We are talking about setting boundaries. I'm going to be running through my slide. I hope to be able to take questions at the end of the day. Quickly, I want to be able to achieve this to help us understand what it means. So much has already been said. So much has already been shared by all our speakers. I equally want to point a little light on the consequences of imbalance, so that we don't take it for granted what we are doing here today. Then, of course, I'm going to be looking at the issues that border around maintaining boundaries. Now, work-life balance, as you can see there, is about what we see on the screen. The dictionary defines it as a state of equilibrium in which the demands of both a person's job and personal life are equal. So on the scale of what is before us, none of it is tilting to the other side. So imbalance occurs when one is tilting to the other side. And that is what we are trying to fight against through this conference. Now, we say a true balance between work and life comes when we know that our life activities are integrated, not separated. You achieve balance the day you realize that your work life and then your other personal life, you are supposed to walk around both and make sure that you are a complete human being when you are at home and you're a complete human being when you are at work. Barrister, when he started, said one of the challenges of stress is that it makes people, even when they are at work, they are not really at work. And that is what we see when there is imbalance. When you are at home, you are not at home. You are not present. You are not present with your spouse. You are not present with the kids because your mind is clogged up. You are checking on mails, you're on your phone. And at the end of the day, in both areas, whether at home or whether at work, you are failing because you are not completely present. So we are looking at how do you integrate self-care into your work life. Very importantly, you know, we keep speaking the grammar, but I need to put it in context. Why is this important? It's important because our life is more than work. Friends, family members, activities, other work bring meaning to life, but they also give meaning to the work that we do. Now, it's very important. Over the years I've trained, I can't even count the organizations that I've worked with and I've done trainings and capacity buildings for. And there's always this point that we get to, especially when I take them in communication and we talk about the different types of communicator. There is always an aspect of my communication class that always interests me and my participant. That is when I talk about the aggressive communicator. The aggressive communicator is that person that maybe through circumstance, maybe through accumulated stress of many years that has now translated to his lifestyle or her lifestyle. She has now become aggressive. You understand the meaning of the word aggressive. The person in communication no more talks, he backs. You have a boss like that, the person becomes a terror to the team members under him. At home, the person becomes a terror to family members. And you now have a situation where people have lived in this zone for so long that by the time they are finally one day, because everything that has a beginning in terms of work will one day have an end. That is the truth. You know, I meet with some of the people I work with, and then I come into somebody's office and he tells me, Mrs. Bell, I'm retiring at the end of this year. And they say it with so much, with so much, they say it, I'm trying to get the actual word now. They say it as if they never thought about it for 34 years that they had been working, because he has lived in this zone of every day he goes to work, and maybe forgot that one day he's going to be told, you know, it was nice doing business with you. You can now go home. It is the end of 35 years of service, or you have clocked 60 years. And then by the time this person that has never been present at home, that has never been present with his spouse or with the children, that has grown over the years to become an aggressive communicator by reason of not balancing work life, by the time he now finally lands in the house after 35 years of work service or 60 years, he's a stranger. He's a stranger to his kids. He's a stranger to his wife. And at the end of the day, there is friction. So you see people at old age, they're having challenges with in their marriage. They're having challenges relating with their children, because those children have grown over the years and they were not available. So it's important that I put this into perspective. What we are saying here has caused a lot of people are in some very deep mess because of not being able to balance this. Work is not everything. If your life includes activities other than work, then your life probably has balance. But there is balance when every part of that scale weighs the same weight, amount, or force. So particularly, no one is tilting to the other side. My work is not tilting, my family life is not tilting. And I must tell you, it's difficult, but it's achievable. Barrister and Madam have already spoken so much about the different signs of when there is a burnout, spending less time. You now see people becoming withdrawn. You see decrease in the quality of work. You see people making professional errors, even to medical people. You see people making professional errors that can cost them their career. You see people becoming less respectful of clients. And you know, Nigeria is such a beautiful country, so beautiful. You know what? We complain when we are in Nigeria, but when you come outside the country, you actually begin to laugh at some of the things that we were living in when we were in Nigeria. You know, in Nigeria, we constantly live in the state of stress from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, to the end of the month, and many times to the end of the year that has not come. You are driving your personal car, the next driver on the road feels, maybe the driver feels you are his problem, and he wants to see how he can probably scratch your car. He feels that you are part of the reason why he's not making enough money in his vehicle, in his trips for the day. So we live in constant stress. I was listening to Chijioke about the issue with the light and getting fuel, and I couldn't stop laughing. We live in this state, and the unfortunate thing is that we adapt. That is why we now have the slogan that Nigerians can survive anything. But it reflects. You go to a government organization, for example, to interact, to meet. Let me give you a practical example. I went somewhere one time to submit a letter, a proposal. And I got into the place, I greeted the woman very well, one of the ministries. I greeted the woman very well in secretariat. And I told her why I came, that I came to submit a letter. She told me, oh, that the person that is supposed to collect the letter from me and stamp it has just stepped out. That every time she complained and complained, why, you know what they do? They leave their work and they go out and blah, blah, blah. After all the complaint, I was just attentive, listening to her. When she finished, she said, well, that lady's job is to collect my letter and stamp it. Her own job is to record it. I said, okay. And let me be very sincere. The stamp that the lady would have used to stamp my letter was on the lady's desk right in front of me. Her desk was the next desk. So it was just a case of she stretches her hand or tells me, please bring it, let me do it for you. So when she finished, I was still waiting. She said, so sorry, I can't help you. I said, I'm sorry, that can I bring the stamp to you so that you help me stamp? She said, don't you understand? Before you know, she flared up. She said, this is why I don't like talking to people. I've told you how things are done. She collects the letter, she stamps, she passes it to me. I record it. I don't do her job. if you see the way she was shouting on me, and to think that I drove to Secretariat that day just because of this letter. I looked for where to park. You know how it can be to get a parking space in Eagle Square. And, you know, went all the way just for this letter. And I couldn't believe I was sent out of her office with a shout for the sake that her colleague
Sorry, we've
is
got
not
2
there.
minutes more. Sorry.
Sorry?
Got 2 minutes more on this session.
Okay, so because of this constant stress that we are in, at the end of the day, we become even critical of ourselves, we become harsh. So you go out, you don't expect to get the best of services. So because all these things happen, the question is, how do we manage it? I'm going to be sharing the slide, and I expect that it will be shared with everybody so that everybody can pick 1 or 2 things for it. Stress in Nigeria is real. But the thing is that it affects our health. It affects every area of life. And that is why life expectancy, every day we keep talking about it. What is really life expectancy in Nigeria? Now, so there is the benefit of stress, which later when you go through the slide, you are going to find. But quickly, I want to run to the aspect of, as you go through the slide, you're going to see so many things. I want to run to the aspect of creating boundaries, which is what helps us to improve our productivity and manage our stress level. Now, how do you create boundaries? The first thing, some has already been mentioned, so I'm just going to run through. The first thing is learn to say no. No is one of the most powerful words on earth. Learning that you are not omnipotent. Omnipotent means that you can handle everything and at any time. I don't know why my slide is not moving. Learn to say no. No is important. Then, sorry, I'm having problem with my slide. I wonder why. Okay. I'm so sorry, my slide has just decided to have a mind of its own.
No, don't even apologize.
Okay, so let me just run through on my head. Later you can have the slide. So learn to say no. Number 2, technology is very, very important. But, you know, learning to manage technology is also part of the way that you set boundaries. For example, when you have your personal time, your family time, it's not the time for technology. So you must have those clear lines. In fact, what I do in my home is that there is a time when we all must sit down on the dining table and have a conversation with the kids, and no electronic comes into the dining at that time. So technology, very important. Then another thing is that if you work remotely, which I've heard some of us do, have your workspace cut out for you in a part of your room. You know, there's something it does to you when you enter into that space, you realize that, okay, I am working. If you leave that space, you have told yourself, I have left this space. And because I have left this space, I have left work. So like one speaker said, leave work at home, at work, and let the home be the home. Don't take work back home. Now, boundaries are like walls. They keep us safe. A life without boundary is a life that is soon going to collapse. Think of your house. Think of the walls around your house. If there are no walls, then you are not safe. So also, if you see a worker going out every day and not realizing boundaries, please, as you go through the slide, you are going to see those examples of how you set boundaries. You will discover that with time, that person is going to collapse under the weight of imbalance. Thank you so very much for the time. I apologize for the mix-up in the slide. Thank you so much. I will share the slide so that everybody can have it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Neye Bell. Thank you for sharing with us in the way that you have. We can relate to so many things that you have said. I caught that no is one of the most powerful words. No is a complete sentence I have heard. And it's something that is difficult to, it's difficult to say sometimes, but when we look at it in the context of our mental health, it's becoming something we must learn, like we learn other languages. Now the floor is open for anyone that would like to ask a question or make a comment. Please, let's remember to keep our comments brief and our questions too. what this does is it allows others also to get a chance to ask their question. So when you take too much time, it means that you're cutting off, some other people who also have something that you could learn from. So please feel free to raise your hands so we know that you want to ask a question or make a comment. I don't know if there are questions. Let me see if there are questions in the chat room. I can't see my chat. So. Do you have any questions or any raised hands?
There is a question.
Okay.
That was sent to us. Someone is asking, how do you cope with people who come to work angry and end up transferring their anger to you?
Mrs. Bell.
Can we take all the questions first before she responds?
Okay.
If it's possible.
Well, now there's none.
Okay, there are no more questions.
You know, I was giving the example of the lady that refused to collect my letter just because, and she did not even say it nicely. She ended up shouting on me, and I had to leave that almost in tears from Secretariat. It's a state that we are in. That is part of the challenge that the society we find ourselves in, unfortunately, has exposed us to. But how do you cope? Self-awareness is key. If you do not come to the point of self-awareness, you are going to keep crumbling under the weight of different emotions. And the different emotions that people are going to throw at you, you will never have control over. So you see, if you are not self-aware to manage emotions, you will keep going up and down and, very turbulent. So your life is never going to be in one piece. So you need to be self-aware. Self-aware, what being self-aware does is that it helps you to come into terms with your trigger points, to know when you are self-aware, you have more control of your emotion. You know what is your trigger point. You know what you can let go. You are better equipped to laugh at issues. And that way you can dispel tension. The reason why we find somebody makes a jab at us with a comment or something, the reason at times why we take it out of control is because we have not come to that point where we can let tension go. And to survive in Nigeria, I must tell you, you must come to this point because there is going to be a lot of things that are going to put pressure on you. So how do you manage it? Please be self-aware. What I usually tell myself is that I'm going to be dealing with this person, like the lady I talked about. I may not have another reason to deal with her in the next month, in the next 3 months. So I can tolerate her. Did you see? Because I'm able to talk to myself. I'm able to. Did you get? If it's a colleague that is always getting to my lap, how regularly must I deal with this person? If there is nothing I can do, for example, like the question about HR not having the spine to do the writing. If HR is not helping me, then I should be able to say, okay, within this space, what activity must I do with this person is a must. So because I have come to that self-consciousness, this person triggers a negative emotion in me. Then because I've come to that self-awareness, I am now better. I tell you, being conscious of it helps your mind to be able to handle it. So when I'm going in, I know I'm meeting this person, I'm better relaxed to say, I'm expecting it's going to be rude, I'm expecting it's going to do this, but I'm going to, it's just for 3 hours and I'll be out of it. And it's not going to. So unfortunately, there's that prayer that says, Lord, help me to control that help me to manage that which I can manage. But help me to also let go of the things that I cannot control. Then give me the wisdom to know the difference. So every day there are things we can control, there are things we cannot control. Wisdom and maturity is knowing the difference and letting go or, making a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't know, do we have any more? Anytime I see
Someone there's a
There's a question.
okay in the chats.
Okay. Let me see.
Said I am a virtual assistant. I recently worked with, that's from ePeople. I recently worked with a client who always assigned tasks outside my jurisdiction. Doing that, I had the privilege to learn other things, but then I feel overwhelmed. I'm sorry. But then I feel overwhelmed most times, complained several times, but nothing changed. So I had to quit. And so I had to quit. So I think this is coming from ePeople. So she had an employer as a virtual assistant, and the employer was giving her things that was outside her jurisdiction. And at first it was like a privilege, but then she got overwhelmed and then she finally quit. So would that say, no, I just want to ask, is that a good decision to quit? Or what other options are available to explore in this situation, just in case somebody's listening that is going through the same thing?
That's the challenge of not having clear boundaries. When you do not have clear boundaries set, as I said, boundaries keep us safe. Anything can come in at us, and this is it. Unfortunately for her, fortunately for her at the beginning, she was enjoying the perks that came with it. And because the client was already used to her not having boundaries, I tell you, if that client gets another virtual assistant that starts him or her out with boundaries, the same client will abide. But because she has started out with this, in the middle of it, one thing that people resist is change. She now wants to come in and say, no, I cannot do work at this time. The client is going to resist. If she had met me initially, I would have told her the change is going to be gradual. For somebody that you have been with before, it's going to be gradual. At times, now I'm talking generally for somebody else that probably is in that situation and you need to make those changes. If it's beginning to affect you and you now know that this is affecting me, I need to start setting boundaries. For somebody you have been with over time, you can't make the change immediately, once at once. You have to let it gradually seep in. So gradually seep in, for example, you get a mail at 9 p.m. If it is possible that you just scroll, the way you see a message and you're able to just slide the message over other apps and you're able to just read the content without necessarily opening it for the person to know it has been opened, then do that. But if you cannot do that, then please don't open the message. Do that once in a while. Not handle some things and let it enter into the new day. And then the person calls, why did you not? I sent this last time. You say, oh, it's just that after work, I switch off my devices. So I'm not able to get. So the person gets the message the first time, and then you continue normally, and then you do it again, and you do it a third time. The person may likely get the message. But to be very candid, nothing is more important than your mental health. If it has come to the point that no change can be done and is beginning to affect you, it's only the living that works. And that's the challenge. The challenge is that most people don't know that mental health issues can actually result in death. So it's only the living that can work. So if it needs you to say goodbye, please say goodbye with all pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry. Go on. Thank you, madam. And thanks for that. The way you answered the question so deftly. But I'm wondering, when parents come home and they are upset and they tend to shout, where should children go? And how could children set boundaries? Is that a possibility? So when we are done with this session and we have time to respond, to take it, we may have time to take that. Otherwise, Mrs. Bell, maybe you'd want to respond in writing in the chat room to that. Thank you. What then happens to young people? That's what I'm trying to ask here. Thank you so much. Ayo is doing his favorite thing at this time. Please feel free to respond in the chat room as well with the answers to this.
Again. All right, keep the answers coming in. Keep the answers coming in. I hope it's not too late to still say to us, Happy Workers' Day. And the theme of this event is, I tire no mean say I lazy. I tire no mean say I lazy. So we are heading on to our next amazing speaker. That is the last speaker. And she is a representative from the Ministry of Labor and Employment. You all would want to open your ears to this. She's also an occupational safety and health practitioner by profession, and a coach and a counselor. She's a coach and counselor by passion. Her experiences in recent times motivated her to having certifications in life coaching, holistic health and wellness coaching, and workplace mental health, amongst others. And currently, she's studying to become a physical and mental health counselor. With a virtual applause, let us make welcome Dr. Tammy Lawson to speak on the employer's contract on mental health. We welcome Ma to the stage.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and happy Workers' Day. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, Ma, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you for inviting us. Even though it came very, very late, so please pardon me. I do not have slides to share. And because the time is very short, mental health is huge. So I'll just get straight to probably as much as I can cover. So the employer's contract on mental health. So every organization or every employer needs to know the importance of good mental health. So good mental health provides us with a sense of purpose, belonging, achievement, and self-esteem. And this benefits both the employer and the workers. So, and in what ways? In terms of role clarity, social connection, acceptance, better support, job satisfaction, recovery. And then for the employer, who is also the organization, there is increased productivity, reduced absenteeism, there's presenteeism, and then competitive advantage, return on investment. All these are impacts of mental health on the organization. So they could be good, they could be bad. So for the good ones, you have, of course, reduced absenteeism, increased productivity. You could attract and keep good staff, competitive advantage, return on investment. And then for the bad ones, of course, are like the opposite of the good ones. So because of time, I won't dwell so much on that. But there's what we call risk or psychosocial risk at the workplace. And this is basically related to the job content, the work schedule, specific characteristics of the workplace. That's the work culture, the organizational culture. And then we have opportunities for career development. And these dovetails into loss of motivation and commitment, burnout, like we've been discussing, and then absenteeism and presenteeism. So I love these two, absenteeism and presenteeism, especially for presenteeism. Yes, the worker is at work, but the worker is not productive. You're just there, but you're not doing anything. Probably that's when you may be termed a lazy worker, not knowing that you're not lazy, you're not tired, but you just have some mental issues. So when we talk about the employer's contract, we're talking about expectations of the employer from the worker. And then before that, I'd like to talk about the tripartism of workplace mental health. So the tripartism of workplace mental health has to do with the government's role or responsibilities, the employer's responsibilities, and the workers also have responsibilities. So it's not just for the employers, it's not just for the government. You as a worker in any organization, whether the private, the public, whether the informal or formal sector, we all have responsibilities to play as regards mental health. So the duty of the employer when it comes to mental health, if the employer cannot handle, is to signpost to other services like the I Choose Foundation that is doing a very good job. I'm passionate about mental health, so I give you kudos. Well done. Even though this time is really short to really deal with mental health issues, but at least we're doing something. So basically, the role of the employer is to prevent workers from experiencing mental health in the workplace. And it could do this by identifying the risk in the work environment and could modify, mitigate, or remove them. So we will not be able to discuss on that. So that's basically occupational safety and health. And that's what we do in the occupational safety and health department. Another role of the employer is to protect and promote mental health at work by building up the capacity of managers to support their workers. So in this aspect, the employer would introduce manager training for mental health, recovering what job stressors are, covering what job stressors are, and how they can be managed, how to recognize and appropriately respond to emotional distress, how to facilitate help seeking, and how to improve interpersonal management skills. So, and there are others. And then another way is the employer could support workers with mental health conditions to access, participate, and thrive at work by allowing for reasonable accommodation. This is very dear to us in the Ministry of Labor, reasonable accommodations. And this also is being used for HIV patients or those workers that are HIV positive. So reasonable accommodation that adapt working environments to match the workers' capacities, needs, and preferences. For example, extra time to complete tasks and time off for mental health care. So that's what reasonable accommodation is. So for the employer's contract, like I said earlier, expectation of an employer from his worker. And these expectations are mutual, so mutual responsibilities. So the employer is expecting a worker to do certain things, and the worker is expecting the employer to do certain things. But first and foremost, before you take up any job, please be sure to get an employment letter. Before you take up any job, please be sure to get an employment letter. And then the essence of this is to reduce psychosocial risk in the workplace as low as reasonably practicable. The truth is that mental health issues will come, but it should be as low as reasonably practicable. And that's why as a worker, you need to learn coping skills. Okay, so the basic content of a contract, which is like your employment letter, should state clear job role, your rank. So someone was complaining about doing more than what she bargained for. Yes, that was quite commendable for quitting. Maybe you quitted late, I don't know, but thank you for some courage to quit. So one thing that needs to be on your contract is a clear job role, very important. So they don't employ you for A and you're doing B, C, D, E, F, and your salary is still for A. So your rank, very important. Resumption and closing time, very important. If you're going to be doing shifting work, off days, holidays, those things should be spelled out. And then if you're going to be working overtime, there should be overtime payment. And of course, adequate pay and allowances. Well, that is controversial, but then it should be. And then pension, savings, health insurance, promotion, and rewards. And then another aspect of the employer's contract should be in terms of workplace policy. So your employment letter cannot have a policy. So every organization is expected to have a workplace policy. So in the department, we have an occupational safety and health policy. And then every organization is expected to draw her policy from that national policy. And one of the things that should be on that policy should be safety and health. So the employer is to provide a safe working environment and safe conditions for working generally. And then by ILO standard, safe and healthy working environment is a fundamental right. So no worker should work in an unsafe environment. And then for the worker, he or she should always adhere to rules and regulations in the workplace. And then there should be penalties for misconduct like violence, harassment, especially sexual harassment, bullying, discrimination, exclusion of whatsoever form, not just for mental health in this case, but also for HIV and other debilitating illnesses. And of course, all forms of disabilities, and then nepotism or favoritism. So another thing that should be stated in the workplace policy should be support system. So from the leaders and from the colleagues, there should be open line communication, confidentiality, very important, ethics of counseling in mental health, confidentiality, and then empathy. You put yourself in the shoes of your colleagues, and whatever you feel, then you should know what your colleague is feeling and probably more. And then socialization, social support is very important. Like said, they have monthly hangouts. So every organization is encouraged to do such socialization. Could have picnics, health fairs, whatever, just to come together and socialize, reduce the stress, and be happy. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Tammy. I believe we've learned so much from what you have just discussed with us or spoken to us about. One particular point that really got me was when you talked about endeavor to get an employment letter before you start working. I mean, that will help you reduce every stress or social stress you would have to be going into. Like I remember in some places I've worked, I've been offered employment, and I get to read the employment letter, and I'm like, oh, this is not actually part of the things that we discussed initially that I'll be doing. So how come it's here? I believe we also have the power to do those things, because most of us, once we get our employment letter too, we see a whole lot of things that, we are not supposed to do, or we don't even have the capacity to do. It's so overwhelming. We know when we're going to it, it's so overwhelming. But it feels like we don't want to open our mouths to talk about it, especially the younger ones around among us. We don't want to open our mouth to talk about it because we feel like, oh, if we tell them we can't really do these things, they're not really going to give us this opportunity anymore. They're not going to employ us. So I indulge us. Take your employment letter, look through it, and then, discuss with your employer the things that you feel, needs to be discussed. So I will just open the house for us for 10 minutes and for us to dialogue, ask your questions. I know we have burning questions to ask your questions. And if you have additions, you can also put it open. But at this point, you have to follow the rules. put up your hands virtually, your virtual hands. And so we're going to ask you to mute yourself, and then you drop your contributions or your questions. So yeah, thank you very much.
We have some questions in the comment section. We have some questions in the comment section.
Okay.
So you can read it out.
Okay, there are some questions in the comment section. Okay, I believe these questions are also general questions for both Dr. Tammy and our other speakers, because we're also going to give 5 minutes each for other speakers to round up. So we have some of the questions. Dr. Tammy, whichever one you would like to pick, you could just give your answers to it. We have, what's the statistics of mental health of mental health professionals per MDAs? And we also have stress management, how to handle nepotism and favoritism in the workplace. And then, can organizations take psychological tests for the staff to determine their mental health? I ask because depression is a typical example of an overused word where everyone who feels tired or stressed claims to be depressed. So I think those are the questions that we have here. Dr. Tammy, you could choose to answer anyone.
Okay, sorry, could you repeat the last question?
The last one says, can organizations take psychological tests for the staff to determine their mental health? And then I ask because depression is a typical example of an overused word where everyone who feels tired or stressed claims to be depressed.
Okay, so I'll start with this. You don't downplay depression at all, right? How do you know that someone is not depressed? So for depression, we have different levels. It could be low, it could be moderate, and then it could be very severe, right? So you can't just say somebody is just using it, so it has become, what's that word now? The word has disappeared. So it's not like people just use it. The truth is that people are stressed. And once you are stressed, psychological test, yes, it's okay. Before I started this job, I took a test, and then that formed the basis for my registration in the ministry. So there's nothing wrong with you doing psychological tests, not just psychological tests, physical tests, because there has to be a healthy mind in a healthy body to do the job for increased productivity. So there has to be that physical check, and there has to be that mental test. So the truth is that most times organizations do the physical test, but they don't focus on the mental health issue aspect. So we can also do that. And if you see someone that you feel is not psychologically okay or very okay, but the person is very skilled, you make your choice. Can you employ this person and then support this person? So the choice is left with the organization, but yes, you can do that test. Then for the statistics of mental health professionals in MDAs, we do not have that statistics. Mental health in the workplace is an emerging issue. So for us, we have started that sensitization, and we are already in preparation for a workplace policy, mental health workplace policy. So there is a mental health policy by the Ministry of Health. So we are going to use that as our basis for the workplace mental health. And then there's another thing that we're planning to do with the head of service. So we're trying to get mental health professionals to be like desk officers in all MDAs. So that also is in the pipeline. Like we know how the government runs, you can't really do anything without budget. So because it's an emerging issue, so it has to be in the 2024 budget, 2025 budget. But believe you me, we have started. In fact, I started championing mental health because I had postpartum mental health issues and all that. And then when I got back to work, I didn't really get the support. And also I had to start that. And then we're moving forward. And then for the nepotism in the workplace, the truth is that you can't really deal with this when it is coming from your boss. You know, there's this fear of losing jobs. So if you can't deal with it because it is coming from your boss, and you can't, approach your boss. In fact, in Nigeria, you cannot say certain things. I've also experienced and I'm experiencing it, but I've decided to have coping skills. So it's very important to have coping skills in the workplace. Like the speaker said before, Dr. Bells, right? That was apt. You just have to have self-awareness. When you have self-awareness, you recognize your limits, your triggers. There are certain things that you just walk away from. You will learn to cope with until you get a better job. Before, at least this is what is putting food on your table. So you have to learn. If you cannot approach the management and discuss certain things, you need a job. So you have to learn coping skills. You have to learn resilience, very important, resilience in the workplace. When it hits you, you shake it off and you move on because of that goal, because of that purpose, because of that prize that you're looking at, which is your income, and you have dependents. So you just have to learn self-awareness, self-recognition, and then know your capacity, know your coping skills. In the event where you cannot, then as a safety and health, occupational safety and health practitioner and a mental health counselor in the making, you just have to quit because your mental health is more important. I hope I've been able to address these questions.
Thank you very much, Ma. You have addressed it. So we have one hand up, Mr. Abel. I don't know if you still want to ask or contribute. Okay.
Yeah. While Mr. Abel is trying to unmute himself, I just want to say thank you very much. We definitely need a mental health policy in the workplace. Thank you very much for working on that. It would be nice to have psychology test before people get employed. You know, it's not to eliminate people, but at least to know where people are and know what kind of help the organization will need to give to those people, you know, over time, so that we don't take mental health issues for granted. So thank you very much. I just wanted to compliment and also to say that part of the reason why we are doing this is to get resolutions, and we will share it with you for some of them to be added to your policy document also.
Okay, the thing is, before the policy comes on board, we're going to invite stakeholders. So every stakeholder in mental health will be in that stakeholders workshop. So there you have the opportunity to add, subtract, say whatever you want so that it will be captured. So, and before then, it's just that we don't have a list of many mental health foundation organizations or NGOs. So ideally, we're supposed to send a draft of the policy to our stakeholders for their input, and then they return to us before the stakeholders meeting, where we fine-tune and come up with a solid national document. So since I know you now, I'm meeting you for the first time, so I'll have to add you to our compendium. So when it's time, sure, you hear from us.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We look forward to it. Yes, Olive, you can continue. Okay, Mr. Abel has
Okay.
Unmuted himself. Mr. Abel, please go on quickly.
Yeah. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name once again is Abel Eniko. Unfortunately, I'm supposed to do a presentation, but I got the information late. So while I was preparing, right, so we had a conversation that has been given to somebody else. So still yet, I still prepare a little thing I can just present. I'm in the car presently, in the car, listening all the while. So people have spoken a lot. I've gotten so much from them. So, and I've been able to see that, of course, there's need for us to address this issue of mental health from every walks of life. But shortly I'll be talking from the angle of my own constituency as a political player, right? Because sooner or later, some of you might also want to be a part of that circle, want to be senator, want to be this or that, right? But briefly, let me just use this as a comment. It won't be a presentation no longer. I'll send a full paper to Chijioke for him to probably share at a platform where people can digest and see what they need to do. I prepared the topic and made it. I said navigating the tightrope, work-life balance and boundaries in grassroots politics. So the abstract simply says, in an era where grassroots politicians like myself are increasingly expected to be on call around the clock, maintaining a healthy work-life balance has become a pressing concern. This paper presentation offers a seasoned political player's insight into the challenges and strategies related to establishing boundaries while sustaining an effective political presence at grassroots level. It explores how personal well-being and personal responsibilities can be harmonized through deliberate practices and institutional support. So I'm going to skip the introduction, blah, blah, blah. Just look at some aspects, frame, unique context for daily work as a political player. Also apply to people around us who work in different organizations that are political, that are community-based. This will also help us to probably just navigate and get something clearer. The 247 nature of our work, right, is so enormous that people expect us to be available at every point in time. Weekdays, weekends, the commitment is so enormous that we don't have time for ourselves sometimes. So the emotional level and community engagement, people expect you every minute, every time, that be available at your time, at every minute. Then the impact of technology on accessibility and expectation, WhatsApp, social media, and the likes, Then the challenges of boundaries for people like us who are public volunteers or NGO owners that work with people at the grassroots level. Then personal versus professional, the bloodlines, right? So the expectation of
Okay, Mr. Abel, sorry. Because of our time, we are almost, we don't want to overshoot it. I will send in the paper like you already sent to me. But if you can I can just ask you a question in, maybe in like 1 minute, just from the political angle, how can, stress be managed and all of that? Just give us, you're a seasoned politician, all of that from the political angle, just in 1 minute. How can it be managed?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, okay, look, like I said earlier, of course, just to wrap it up, the point I was trying to make is that, of course, all those challenges and the likes will make it important for people to manage their life and make it a balanced stuff within the community. So the best bet as a citizen politician is that people should just probably just look for a way of having a way of prioritizing things, delegating responsibilities, right? Prioritizing events and occasions. Don't become, I want to do it at all times, always. Have people that are reasonable around you that can be committed to do things for you. So that when you are attending to certain things, they are also doing certain things for you at the same time. So that you'll be able to balance your life as an individual, so that your family will be able to access you easily without stress. The community also gain from you without being available directly. Your aides can easily attend to people, attend to things that surrounds you. It's so voluminous, but like you mentioned, because of time, let me just stop at that. Balance your life by prioritizing things and also having people that you can delegate people things to efficiently. Thank you.
Delegation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I think now we can go back and take just for about 3 to 5 minutes our speakers to just round up. And
Okay.
we call it a day.
Yeah. So,
So
but
we
before we continue, sir, you know, we didn't really properly say thank you to our representative from the Ministry of Labor, Dr. Tammy. And we wanted to also add that I Choose Life Foundation, I believe you said you're meeting us for the first time. You mentioned something around postpartum depression, and I want to let you know that I Choose Life Foundation, we're actually currently running a survey on postpartum depression in workplaces. We believe it's an issue that needs to be looked into. So I'm bringing it to your notice, or we are bringing it to your notice so that whatever you could do to assist us to make sure this desire of ours or this cause of ours come true. And if it's to collaborate with the Ministry of Labor in one way or the other to be able to access different companies or organizations where we could administer our questionnaire to it hassle-free, we would really be grateful for any help the Ministry of Labor would give to us. Thank you very much. So moving forward, we would be giving 3 minutes. I can see a hand, and coordinator, should you take for 1 minute?
He's part of our speakers. Is that not Barrister?
Wants to respond?
Okay. Dr. Tammy wants to respond.
Okay, ma. Please go on.
Oh, okay. So for that, I think you need to come to the ministry, and we'll schedule a meeting with my director. So we'll make it planning a health and safety and health summit sometime this year. So what is just delaying us is the budget. Yes, so they extended the 2023 budget, and this program is supposed to run on the 2024 budget. So once once the 2024 budget starts running, we'll resume planning. And I think that program would give you the audience you're looking for. So because if you just come to Ministry of Labor, you're likely going to be dealing with probably just the civil servants. But in that summit, you have a wide spread of stakeholders, informal sector, formal sector. So if we start planning now, we'll have to capture it part of the summit.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am. So we'll just move on to our, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the speakers. Everyone was delivered well and in such a short notice. Most people we gave most of our speakers one day notice, 2 day notice, or 3 days notice, but they were still able to deliver great content in such a short time. So moving forward, we would want each of our speakers to come back and do a summary for 3 minutes. We believe that there are things they would want to say in the course of the events that they didn't have the opportunity to say as a result of time. So just 3 minutes. I think we would call our first speaker, Dr. Fola, to take the stage now. Thank you.
Okay, hello. I quite appreciate the gratuitous title you've given to me. I'm not a doctor. I'm only a lawyer. Yes. I just want to touch on a strategy that experts have developed in coping strategies for difficult situations. I didn't have time to expatiate on it while I was delivering, so I'm quite happy that I have this window of opportunity to bring it in. There is this strategy of 4 A's that has been developed, which people in the workplace can actually bring to bear to get themselves out of difficult situations. And the first is to avoid, the first A, to alter, to accept, and to adapt. And what this means is, for instance, if the first A, if you want to apply it to the example that came up, which was a question as to an employee giving one other employee some difficult situation that we feel that the HR might not be able to handle. I mean, such an employee who is being disturbed will put up the strategy of avoidance. Just avoid, most especially when it comes under the category of that's not, it's not anything out of line. It's not against rules and regulation. So an employee could avoid that other employee in making sure that it doesn't allow him or her to be stressed. Then to alter, the second strategy, which is alter. I mean, we could have situations where a task is handed down, for example, to be done, and looking at the task and making sure that, I mean, if the set goals is altered, you will still get the same result, which is perhaps profitability for the organization. And if you do it that way, if your line manager or whoever is your superior has actually handed down such a stressful route for you to achieve results, if you get the result and the result is fine, I don't think your line manager would take it up with you, because there's no point taking it up, because we've gotten results that gives shareholders value. Then going to the third concept, which is accept. I mean, in some situations, when you can't run away for some circumstances, then you accept it. Your ability to accept it might be a blow to somebody who is actually pressing the stress button on you. You just shock the person, shock whoever has come together wanting to stress you on an issue in a workplace. Then the fourth one is adapt. I mean, we all kind of, as humans, it's best that situations that we cannot avoid, then we develop adaptive mode to cope. So I mean, I've read about it, I know about it. If one masters it would be a distressor for whoever masters these strategies. So I'm happy I'm able to bring it up, to bring this in this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So our next speaker, who's our second speaker?
Okay, but the next speaker is going to round off for just 3 minutes. Will be Dr. Joydaniels Osere. Dr. Osere Joydaniels, yes. Please, Dr. Joyce Daniel, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Mrs. Osere is just fine.
Okay, ma, thank you, ma.
All right, so very quickly, I remember I didn't talk about company values. If the employee has a different value from that of the company, man, it's like you shooting yourself on your foot already before you start the job. I don't know if you understand, because first and foremost, is the work is just going to start on a very difficult footing. So first of all, we need to know the value of the company that you want to work for. It's just like a researcher. Like when I'm researching on anything, if I get an author, first of all, I like to know all about the author. I like to know all about the author, some questions that he has asked, why he's, writing or making the research. That way, if I'm using his materials, it puts me in a very, nice position to start my writing. So it is with knowing company values. That way, the job is not difficult. You know what you are expecting. But if you're already in it, like the virtual assistant, that asks a question earlier on, my advice would have just been what she did. Take a step backwards and, try the next opportunity, which she did. That may have just saved her mental health. She didn't know. It was a difficult decision, but it's just something that she did, okay, that may have just saved her life without knowing. That is my contribution as to that. Then another thing, when we talk about mental health, as a mother, I'm going to talk about my own experience. Okay, I'm not talking about any other person's experience right now. I've overheard someone talk about postpartum. Okay, I don't know if they talked about it here, but I want to say that that's one thing that I was going through that I didn't know. I just felt like I was tired. Just like people say, tiredness is depression, depression is tiredness. Whichever comes first. To be overly tired is bad. To be depressed is bad. I found out that I was just so tired about doing every other thing. And I drove myself to the clinic. And before I knew, I saw myself the next day on the bed. So what if I had, dropped at home because of maybe something like burnout? So I want to advise that if you are under stress, if you are depressed or tired or fatigued, please ask for help. The worst you can get is a no, but at least ask for help. The person you are asking for help from is human. You don't know until you ask. Just ask for help. It helps our mental health. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Joydaniels. Next, we'll call on Praise Okwuchi. Praise, 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you so much. So I was trying to connect my video. Okay, I would like to say a very big thank you again for the opportunity to speak to us. And I would like to end with this quote. So our greatest weaknesses lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. And that's a quote by Thomas Edison. And this is for those who are probably also trying to transit into new career beyond just transiting from the school to the workspace. I know applying for jobs can be overwhelming. Some people apply for jobs, sending their CVs like 10 times in a day. But I'd like to also encourage that despite the task or the mental stress in sending out your application, one of it would work. And then I remember someone mentioned something relating to being able to accept eventualities that come up, especially as it has to do with work. So someone who believes in the feedback system. If you're not going to be able to deliver, kindly state that you're not going to be able to deliver. If you're not going to make it to work at 8 o'clock as your policy states, kindly let your boss or your HR know about that. And finally, on comparison, I understand that the parents, especially in Nigeria, that we have found ourselves, can add to this mental stress when it has to do with comparison. But I personally want to advise that you take it back as your own feedback and go back and turn it into the positive way. So if they say, oh, this is what your mates are doing, obviously you are not your mates, but just give yourself that time and let them know that after a certain, either 5 years or something, you would grow, because growth is actually essential as it has to do with the career or the workspace life. Thank you once again and have a lovely day. Bye.
Thank you very much, Okwuchi. And at this point, we would like to call on Mrs. Bell. Mrs. Bell, you had so much you wanted to share with us earlier. We have 3 minutes now to do that. Thank you.
Okay, so much has already been said. I think everybody has captured it at different times. I will just round up with reminding us, according to Jana Kingsford, that balance is not something you find, it's something you create. And every one of us are artists in our own story. So let's make use of the time that we have on our hands and the space that we have to create the balance that we want. And we'll be happy that we did. Thank you so very much once again.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So we have to take responsibility for the balance because it doesn't just happen. Thank you, ma'am. Mrs. Lawson, would like to hear from you. Your parting shots, please.
Okay. So yeah, so actually what I had was perinatal depression. So it started during pregnancy, at the time of birth, and then after 1 year, and still working on it. So mental health is a really, really serious issue. And for some of the questions that were raised, how can I deal with a boss that is not nice, colleagues that is that are angry and all that. So I think every one of us, employers, HR manager, workers, we need behavior modification. And then we all need emotional intelligence. So you don't have to be a manager to have emotional intelligence. Every one of us, because now we're talking about bosses and workers, or employers and workers. The truth is that between colleagues, the gossip, the backbiting, the trying to get favor from the oga, a lot of things happen between colleagues. But if we can have emotional intelligence, I think some of these things, the fighting, the gossip, the trying to be the one to do all the work or to get noticed, to get recognized, and all sorts of tricks and games that happen in the workplace, we really reduce. And then above all, we should be kind. You might just be saving someone's life in the office. So back to the employer, like I said, for us to have a mentally friendly workplace, the government has its own role, and that's by developing policies to prevent and promote and support mental health at work. And then employers have the legal obligation to provide a working environment, both physically and mentally. And then workers, when they say use your PPE, do this, do that, use this level of degree, just obey the rules and regulations, obey the work culture in the organization where you work. And also, there's the need for you to know the signs of mental health for yourself and for your colleagues. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you for the good work you're doing. So my 3 minutes is up, but I need 1 minute to show you something. So this is the national, I don't know if you've seen it, this is the national policy on occupational safety and health. So it's due for revision, and this is the guideline. So this is the National Mental Health Policy. So every organization is supposed to have this occupational safety and health policy. And then from this, you can now formulate or develop your own workplace policy. And then this is the mental health policy from Ministry of Health. And from this, we're going to be developing the workplace policy. There's also the National Suicide Prevention Strategic Framework. So this is for suicide prevention. There's also National Workplace Policy on HIV. HIV is one thing that impacts on mental health. So there is a policy for HIV talking about discrimination and stigmatization and all that is taken care of in this national policy. And it's expected that organizations should have a workplace policy on HIV from this national policy. And you're supposed to send your report to the ministry, the Occupational Safety and Health Department. And then this is the guideline for the HIV and AIDS. Why I'm doing this is because a lot of organizations do not know about these policies, and then the workers suffer for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Lawson. There's so much literature to read from the Federal Ministry of Labor. I'm wondering if this would then include the private sector. How does the private sector domesticize? How do they include this in their own policies? Maybe that's a conversation for another day. But at this time, we've got a rapporteur who is going to share the resolutions with us.
Yes.
Sorry,
excuse me. Yes, ma'am. So we're going to properly work on it and send it to everybody's mail. I believe we have everybody's email. So we're going to forward that with them.
Okay, so at this point, I believe quite a number of people were waiting for who would win in the riddles. I'll hand over back to Olive. Olive will take us through the presentation of the prizes, and then we'll have the closing, and we can carry on with Enjoying Workers' Day. Olive, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. Thank you to everybody here. So for the quiz or the riddles, we would like Ayor to call on the winner of the quiz, or the winners. I believe we have winners, not just winner of the quiz. They are still compiling it and going through who. So we're still compiling it. So we're going to call on Ayo to announce the winner of the quiz, or the winners of the quiz. So just, Ayo, please.
So the quiz so far has been quite interesting, and we have some winners already. So first off on board, I have, so the first question, nobody got it. We had people that were close, but they didn't exactly get the actual answer that we wanted. And so I'll probably put the first question out. But the winners we have for today, we have Sadiq. Is it Sadi or Sadi? I have King Moyo. I have Adeyemo, Mr. Adeyemo, and Mr. Adeyemo. So those are our winners for today. Sadi was able to give us answers to 2 of the trivial questions.
Looks like we lost him. Is it possible to put the names in the chat room also? just in case, in case of those ones that were not clearly pronounced.
Okay. Hello, are we together?
We are together.
All right, all right. So I was saying that Sadi had two answers, answered two questions. King Moyo also answered two questions. And then for Mr. Adeyemo, one, and Mr. Adeshumo also one. So those are our winners for today.
Congratulations to all the winners of our Workers' Day event. I tire no me say I lazy. Thank you very much. Please reach out to us. Reach out to us via our number 070-8191-2887. Reach out to us and to claim your prizes. So thank you very much for participating in the quiz. Thank you. So I would, at this point, hand over to Madam Ime. Do you still have something to say, or?
No, I think if Madam Folusha is on, then
Okay.
we will just ask that she kindly closes the meeting.
Okay, so we would like to call on the convener of the founder of I Choose Life Foundation, none other person than, oh, please, I would allow the coordinator to do this. Thank you. Please take it over from there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Because of time, I would like to invite and welcome to, of course, the virtual platform, our founder, the visionary of I Choose Life Foundation, to close us. And of course, I'm sure many of you will be seeing her for the first time. That's because she actually likes just pushing us young people to be in front and doing our best. So we welcome Madam Folusha Shadow to the virtual platform. Thank you very much, ma'am. Madam Folusha is muted. Is muted. Olive.
Okay. Muted.
Yeah,
okay, so while
can
we're
you use yours? Can you use your system so that
no, she's not at this spot. She's no more in the office.
Oh, okay. So she's not in the office and I can't see her on the platform. All right. So we missed her. She was here in the office, but I think she's left to some other engagement. But well, on behalf of our founder and our board members, led by the non-executive chairman, Barrister Agbola, the former what now of Ogun State, Attorney General, former Attorney General of Ogun State. Yeah, I want to thank you all for coming and participating here. As I Choose Life, we do programs like this, more physical programs, and we would want you to participate, share your ideas, and join us. For those of you who did not register, we don't have your emails and phone numbers. So all these resources and everything that we saw here, we won't be able to send it to you. So please just do well to send a message with your email and phone numbers before you drop off, so that we can be able to link up to you for other engagement. Yes, thank you so much to all our speakers, to Barrister Fola, Adeyemo, insightful, world-class delivery, the Mrs. Joydaniels, Osere. Thank you so much. Ms. Okwuchi Praise, Odera, thank you very much for your time. Ms. Bell, thank you. As in, you all put in so much into your speech, and we thank you. We want you to note that we are open and still looking for volunteers, trainers, psychologists, and the likes. And we have some upcoming activities. Like Olive mentioned, we do our hangouts and all of that. And every year we have our flagship program called My Nigerian Dream. And this year we are focusing on the 30 points of life, where we would handpick and celebrate 30 young individuals who are doing amazingly well in different fields. We would like your support. We would like your everything that you could give to us so that we could be able to do all of this. We'd also want you to nominate. We don't, it's not like we are picking, so we want you to nominate. This is why we need your contact, so that we can be able to reach out to you, and you will send in your nomination for who you think fall under these categories of young individuals who are doing amazingly well. Just to re-emphasize, even though we have put it up on the platform, our helpline is active. Please reach out to us. Even if you just want to gist, reach out to us. There will always be someone to take your call over there. Yeah, I think the secretariats are sending me so many things to say to you, but I know that we are so out of time. Thank you all so much. For those who can stay behind, we'll play a video for you to see some of the things that we do in I Choose Life for you to watch. Let me not keep some of, especially our speakers here. Thank you very much, and happy Workers' Day. Remember, I tire, no mean say we lazy. Thank you all very much. You can unmute and talk now instead of just dropping off. You can unmute and network and all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was a great one, great outing. Appreciate the time.
By I Choose Life, and I'm an adventurous outdoor, and I've been part of this wonderful program here today, and they really inspire teenagers like myself and others at the back. We've been impacted. Please do not do drugs.
I Choose Life tries to tell you guys cool stuff like how to promote your mental health.
Diligent. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Diligent Darius.
We are here to educate you on the consequences inherent in abusing drugs.
I'm inspiring. My life has meaning. What I do has meaning. My actions are meaningful and inspiring.
Hi, my name is Somadina. Say no to drugs, choose life every day.
By I Choose Life, and I'm an adventurous outdoor, and I've been part of this wonderful program here today, and they really inspired teenagers like myself and others at the back. We've been impacted. Please do not do drugs.
I Choose Life tries to tell you guys cool stuff like how to promote your mental health.
Diligent. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Diligent Darius.
We are here to educate you on the consequences inherent in abusing drugs.
I'm inspiring. My life has meaning. What I do has meaning. My actions are meaningful and inspiring.